Okay, we're back. I'd like to welcome Raquel Diaz and Judge Schwartz to the meeting.
Hi, thanks for having us. All right, so I've been apprised that everyone got my proposed 2020, and I think a lot of it seems to have been wrapped in. I actually was just given the 1022 update to your tentative, literally 5 minutes ago. So I was still working off the other. So it seems like a lot of what we proposed has been incorporated. The one real question I have, and I don't know that we'll be able to resolve it this evening, is the line item 1020 for the clerks. Not Ms. Diaz, but the other clerks. Because it's a reduction from 2019 to 2020, so it's going down. If someone could explain how that works.
Helen, what page?
That is page 2.
Page 2.
And it's line A11101020.
Yeah, so 2019 appropriated was the 76,482. For 2020, it will go down by more than $100.
That having to do with the...
I would have to check and see why we did that. We have a spreadsheet that lists every employee, what their rate is, an increase. I don't know if maybe what we had budgeted for 19 was higher than what it should have been. In other words, with the increases.
It could be.
You know, it could be that's what it is, but that is something that we'll check into.
So we're checking as well. My concern is this, beyond the fact that it went down. And I'm assuming, we all know, I have every confidence that you're giving my people, you know, some sort of increase. So I had assumed that must mean that what was appropriated previously must have been over appropriated based on what they're making now.
It could be, but I will say the one employee that you have
Doesn't increase.
right.
Absolutely, and
Yeah,
that's understood.
yeah.
So it could be that, but my other concern, and Helen, you and I can work on this, is when I look at the other employee that is subject to increase.
Right.
I have concerns that the appropriate raises under the CBA were not given. So we need to double check that. I want to make sure, because that may be why your appropriated numbers aren't matching what you're showing as being actually paid. And I don't know, I'm not sure how far back this might go.
Oh, I'm
There's-
sure we're
there's-
paying the correct amount in
Yeah.
19.
There's no appropriated raise for next year because the
No, I
contract's up.
understand. No, I'm not talking about that. I had asked for information, I have yet to get it from the staff, but when I do a simple look at, for instance, what the hourly rate was for 2018 based on some pay stubs, and what it seems to be in 2019, the 3% wasn't received. It was short, so that might be why some of these numbers are off, and if that happened multiple years, if it's a little off here and there, maybe that's one of the reasons why these numbers are off. I don't know yet, so I think we have to work together
Yeah, I
to
would have
figure
to
this
check
out.
that, because I mean, I would be very surprised if they were incorrect in 19.
Okay, yeah, I hope that's the case. So that's the, you know, one of the major thing that we just want to check in with you to see, and we probably need some paperwork, maybe some prior case stubs. I've asked them to get them for me, but
Okay.
I'm waiting. So the other line item I do see, and I appreciate the increase in the overtime number. And it's interesting to see. So we've been real tight with trying to keep the overtime. Obviously, we have $0 so far this year. And I know Terry Capola has discussed with Tony what's coming up with respect to the rescission of warrants that we have to go through. I don't know how many there are. Yeah, 600 warrants need to be rescinded, and that is something that we've tried to work into the day, but can't really work into the day.
So explain to me what the overtime would be for that.
Go ahead.
Oh, really, it would just be to close out the files, the paperwork. Each individual file will have to be sealed. If there is anything that is old or due, we will just have to close it out completely out of the system.
I mean, it's my understanding that these are just gonna be dismissed, that, now the DA's office sent you a list of the
No,
warrants.
they came to the court
That's what I'm saying, the DA's
Yeah.
office sent you a list of the
Mhm.
warrants that have to be cleared out, because
Right.
they're all, these are all penal law, they're not administrative code or town code or anything like that, there's no traffic, it's a straight penal law, right?
Straight penal laws,
All right.
yeah.
So, from my understanding, these just get vacated, there's no, sealing and all that, I
Oh,
don't
no,
know.
we have to seal, we have to withdraw, we'll have to send them notifications to the troopers, we have to send the seal notifications to the ADAs, the troopers and whoever else.
Yeah, I mean,
and the
from
defendants.
speaking with the
Yeah.
DA, I didn't get the impression it was all that involved.
Oh, yeah, it is, very much so.
Is there something you can show us to kind of justify that? Because like you said,
Yeah, sure.
in speaking to that office, I didn't get an impression.
Yeah, sure.
And I just had a conversation just a few days ago with the office there, and it really didn't, they just said, yeah, just take 10 per session and vacate it, and that's it. So I don't know,
Well,
I
that's,
just want to make sure that we're not
Right.
overthinking this and doing too much on it, you know what I mean?
well, I think
We're
what-
not the only ones, obviously, in this
when he
boat.
talks about that, is he talking about my role of establishing for the record that they're vacated,
Yes.
right? But then we take it to their role, what they have to do next. As a step-by-step process, there's a statewide system.
Right,
Correct,
where we
that-
have to seal any records, any.
What does that mean in the
records.
system?
We have to close out the file completely, where if they were arrested for a misdemeanor, or even a violation that was closed out or dismissed, we have to completely erase it from their records.
What does that mean in a system?
And
Okay, so you have an electronic system, what do you have to do?
they have to input all the information.
Right, but they don't know that, so that's why I'm deposing you now, so you can explain it to them. What
I
does
mean,
that
you have to
mean,
enter
step by
all that
step? What the
information
DA
into the
doesn't know is
computer,
this part of it that she has to do. So what do you have to do? You have to go into the system
Once we
for
get the
each
file,
person.
we have to enter all their information, whatever information we got from the arrest records, we have to input it where it shows that they were not in any position of having any kind of record. And then with that paper record, once we print out that paper record, we have to submit it to the Department of Criminal Justice. We have to submit it to all arresting agencies, whether it was the police department, the state police, the sheriff's
So they
department.
can release their records.
Right, they will have to release from there.
And the sealing is actually an electronic sealing to note that the file is being sealed in the electronic system.
Right, and they still require the paper record though. They still need that.
Right,
that
so it's
official
both
seal.
electronic and paper for all 600 and something defendants.
So are these defendants coming before the court?
No, they won't have to. My role is the simplest part of it, they'll simply be vacated. But then the process after that to make sure that all of the stakeholders, the relative agencies, relevant agencies get notified and the electronic system is updated, that's the procedural part that takes a long time. And that's not me, that's them. That's the clerks that have to do all of that.
So just so I understand here, so you bring up that record, that warrant, that active warrant, right?
Right,
And then in the system, it's gonna get closed out as being vacated, right?
withdrawn, yeah.
All right, withdrawn, vacated,
Right.
all right? And then, so that's gonna show up at that point in OCA, so if I pull you over or whatever, however I would run that record, it's gonna come up as vacated.
Well, then it should be, some would be sealed, I would think.
Well,
or not.
I
you
think the
would-
seals,
you
you
would-
have to actually request that to be sealed. I don't think these have to be sealed.
Well, that's what they're doing it on the record. The first part is where the judges will put that on the record. All warrants, outstanding, anything that has to do with these files, that has to be stated on the record first. Once that's done.
Right, and
Then we'll
open
do our
court,
part,
yeah.
yeah, and then we
I
have
got
to do
you.
our part. It has to be officially done.
His question
No,
is
no, I'm not
whether
saying that
they
doesn't have to be
actually
officially
have-
done, I'm just trying to determine
His
the
question is
amount of
actually
work
whether they
that,
have to be sealed.
once it gets vacated in the system, in other words, so you bring up, Michael McGinn's record for, he's got a warrant for, I don't know, 22003 possession of
Right,
narcotics.
right,
And then you bring up, it's getting vacated, dismissed by the judge, right?
right.
So you're just showing that as dismissed in the system, and once it's dismissed in the system, basically anyone that runs my name after that just sees that it was dismissed, right? You're not, what I'm saying, I know there's paper, but really this is an electronic record that's getting closed out in the system, so if he or she or I get stopped somewhere else, that I'm not being arrested for an open warrant, basically, So
Right.
I'm just trying to
Right.
understand the level of work that is needed to do this. For me, and listen, I'm not doing your job, Raquel, so but I don't think, from speaking to other people, it seemed like a relatively simple process. So I just want to make sure we're not, when I say we're, us as the town and you as the clerk, are not overthinking this.
Oh, no.
Well, well, can you actually explain step by step the process? Or do you want to take the time to actually give you something in writing so you can explain to them the
I'd
step by
rather
step
get them something
process?
like, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what I can tell them what we do and not do as far
I
as.
don't either, actually.
So I don't
I'm
want
not
to
sure
say
what we
anything I
can
shouldn't.
say. Yeah. So let's find that out.
Yeah.
And then if we can outline the process, we can do that.
Yeah, I'll get it from Anna Bryant from the.
Right,
administrative
and
judge.
that's better, because then
Yeah.
she can actually advise us what we can disclose and what we
Right.
can't disclose.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're taking the right direction and not
It's
doing
a-
more than we had to.
it
Like
would
when
actually
you
be
said
helpful.
seal, I don't think these records are being, sealed like you have to call the sheriff's office, they have to pull it, they're gonna seal that file. Because I used to do that up there, that's what I mean, I think sealing is a whole different thing. These are just basically getting vacated because,
No, it involves more than that, but like I said, we.
I'd like to, if you could just outline that procedure so we're not, I just want to make sure we're not overdoing
Well,
more
and
work.
that
than we have
actually
to.
brings me to what my comment was. I do see that you put more overtime in the number, and that's in the line item, and that's
Just
great.
to clarify, these are not final numbers.
Nope, I got you.
Okay.
Absolutely. What I was about to say is I need to understand the process more as well, because I'm trying to estimate myself what the project will take. And I know Terry Capola has started the process, and we have some first amount of time that she took with overtime and trying to get the process, the first part of the process done. So I wanted to sit down with her. She just completed that, I think, last week, maybe, or the week before. Sit down with her to see what the process is, how much time it took, and how many she got through, and that might give us a better estimate of what we're looking at. Other than that, were there any questions for us on what we've proposed?
One question I had was two questions. First is the Justice Court attendance training,
Attendance training, yes. Right.
11/10/4189.
Mhm.
Is that a yearly training or?
That is Jack's numbers. Now, I know, no, I think it's every 2 years. That's why you see this year there wasn't, and that's why he's anticipating he'll need the number this year.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And then contractual court stenographer.
Yes. Right.
Let's say you're at 4,000 at the end of this year. You're
Okay.
going at 8,000?
I think we'll actually be a little bit over 5 this year. I think one of the reasons why she's a little low is because there is substantially less traffic. That, however, will be ramped up, as I had asked to add. I was hoping for a substitute prosecutor, and so I added in a ton of traffic nights, but didn't hear back, so now I will be covering them all. So we will be adding in several traffic nights. I will be picking them all up.
When you say there's less traffic court dates.
There has been less traffic court dates because Justice Milligram
No, I just
couldn't
want to
cover
make sure it
them.
wasn't less traffic in numbers.
No, there were less dates. So now I have added back in, I don't know, 6 or 8.
You did, and then,
Yeah.
whoever the new judge will be next year will be taking over those ones.
Right, so that will go back to a regular calendar. The other reason why you see the bigger number is the court stenographer hasn't had a raise in how many years? I think ever. And so she had asked for an increase. I don't recall what it was, but she's been with us, 10 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. I've never gotten one, so that was the reason for that. I know it looks like a big number, but the first number, the 3,000 that was appropriated, was a reduction from probably
It was a lot
a
lower.
$2,000 to $3,000 reduction for what was used. I don't have those numbers, you might have them, for what was actually used. And
In 18?
yeah, I don't have that in front of me. I don't know what we actually used.
You spent 57.55.
Right, and so 2019 went down to 3, which we knew we were gonna, and that was one of the budget transfer requests that I had asked for from probably the contingency fund, because we didn't have it. Yeah, that's really the reason, somewhere between, I would say that 8 is probably accurate, and this year we'll probably end up at around 6 maybe? Maybe more,
Because
maybe
we had
more.
a few of the trials and stuff like
And that's right, we have trials coming up,
that.
yeah, yes, that's true. Yeah, we might add the 65 or 7, we'll see.
Okay.
Any other questions? And then you saw, I don't know if the rest of the board was privy to, and submitted the JCAP application, so we won't know though until probably April, right?
Well, January, February.
Oh, is that
we'll
early?
know.
But they don't pay until April,
Right.
is that it?
Correct.
Okay, right. Yeah, but we did prioritize that list, so, and you should have, hopefully have that on what was most important and some, the priority 1 items are the things that we really do need terribly, and then the priority 2 and 3 we can maybe live without,
Yeah,
so,
just for next time, you know I expressed this to you
which,
with regard to the JCAP grant. Next time, if there's ever something submitted, and we'll get into details after, I know you didn't want to do that.
you're not allowed to do that.
No,
It wasn't that I didn't want to, I would love to do that.
You're allowed to submit grants, and then if they're gonna come back for more information. Now, if you submit the grant, and you're submitting it with a cost estimate, they're gonna ask you for the breakdown. And that's
Right.
possible, you know,
We
$20,000.
were advised completely to the contrary, that we would
Right.
reject the application if we were asking for numbers without any itemized breakdown on construction.
Right.
And who advised you of that?
Krista Basto, she's the OCA, she's in charge of the JCAP. I told her to let her know what we were submitting to her.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk it being rejected outright.
I've
Because we
spoken to
didn't
two
comply
other,
with it.
I've spoken to
Yeah.
2 other people, and they said they did the same thing.
Did you speak to the person in charge of the grant?
No, I've spoken to 2 other people who had grants previously, and they did it the way,
It's not the same.
So what did they
The
submit?
person's not the same.
Because what all we had
they
was a flat
submitted a
number.
detail, they submitted a detail afterwards. They gave it a breakdown afterwards.
So they just asked for instance, $30,000 with no explanation?
It was, a portion of it was a grant that didn't have detail, a portion of it had detail.
Yeah.
We,
she said
listen,
she-
we.
I can only tell you what
we've done it
OCA's
in the
told
town.
us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
So you're saying that they would've denied or rejected the entire grant, or just that portion of it?
She said they would have rejected that portion of it because of the fact that it wasn't specific enough, that what you wrote about the,
you had an engineer saying, in general,
Yeah.
this project would cost $40,000, for instance, with no detail.
right.
That was
and
it.
then, yeah, and then she was like, why was the number so high? And then there was something that specific that he used, he said, that's, what lingo is that? She was like, no, she says, absolutely not. So, she said, it has to be more specific. It states it on the
Well,
JCAP grant.
it said it required itemized quotes, actually
Yeah, but
listing.
I read that part, and it didn't
Yeah.
specify it needed it at that time.
It did.
No, if you read it, it didn't specify it needed it at the time of application.
Okay.
So,
I disagree, but it
That's fine.
said basically that what you had to do was submit online the application, and that was that, filling out the application and then submitting it, and then required by that same deadline, a submission with all the backup via either email, fax, or mail by that deadline. And so that's how we submitted all the other quotes and estimates.
And I know there's a lot of work in
So,
there. I saw that.
Yeah, so, and that's what she was saying, that package submitted via email and mail had to have everything in it by that deadline. And I had her double check several times, because I knew we were jammed up and having trouble getting it.
Well, the reason we have
Her
trouble
answer
getting it,
was-
we just
Yeah.
approved our bids October
Sure.
3rd,
Timing is everything, right? It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
October 2nd.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of which, so are we still on target for a January 1 move-in?
Probably not, only because with the early election, we could not start construction.
Okay,
So we're gonna have to wait until after the election
okay,
is
so
over
do you have a
to start
guesstimate?
construction. I'm gonna say, I've told somebody today, 3 to 4 months,
3 or 4 months from when?
from, let's say,
When they
the
start.
middle of November, from when we start.
Okay, so
I figure
maybe
March,
March 1?
March, April.
Okay. All right, good to know. Okay. Any other questions?
I'm good. Anybody else have any questions?
So what's the next step in the process?
Public hearing is November 7th.
Okay.
At that point, we'll generate a preliminary budget, and then if there's any comments after that date, and we make any other adjustments to it, then it becomes essentially a final budget, which is approved on the 19th of November
Okay, so the prelim comes out, and then do we have another opportunity to be heard?
at the public hearing.
Okay, all right, and so whoever shows up, forever hold your peace, so to speak.
Yeah, one of those.
Okay, all right, so perhaps, who would I be working with, Helen, on the issue of the clerk's pay?
I will look into that tomorrow, actually,
Okay,
and look and see what the rate was, going 18, 19,
yeah,
and forward.
okay, and I've asked that the clerk itself look for her pay slips to figure out what her, at least what her hourly rate was for 2017, 18, 19.
Yeah,
So
I
we
mean,
can
we'll have
confirm
that,
those
in our
raises.
system will have the history. So even if she doesn't find stubs, it's,
Yeah.
that's fine. And then we'll look at, what the rates were and what the increases were
Right.
supposed to be and see if it calculates out correctly.
Okay, all right, very good. Yeah, and then if you could just explain to me, once you've done that, how we got to the 2020 number, that'd be great.
Sure.
All right, anything else, guys?
What is the $350 for the software maintenance for?
Software maintenance, so we have an IT company that we contract with.
Oh.
Actually, it's the town of New Windsor's IT department. So when they come out and do anything, whether you need a software update, if your computers, you can't connect to the internet and they have to come out to site, there's a fee associated with it. So we're charging each department the cost for that maintenance.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, but that's not something that we have to submit or anything, that's just something that will just come off the, like if we do call them out.
Yeah, so when you call them out, they send us a statement for the whole month, and there's a breakdown by each call and what department it was and what needed to be done. So when that statement comes, if it says that, there was a call for the justice court, connection wasn't working, $50, we would charge it to that account directly.
Okay.
And Jennifer is the one who kind of coordinates that, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
In my office, Jen takes care of it.
Oh, yeah, great. All right, very good. Thank you, everyone. Any other
Thank
questions?
you very
for us?
much. Thank you very much for
Okay.
being here.
Thank you. And I'll get that form, that letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That pet's alive.
All right. Anyone have anything, public comment? Mr. LaSalle?
Good evening, guys. I'm ignorant, some of my questions may look foolish. My first comment is about the
Do me a
warrant.
favor, just do me a
My
favor.
first comment is about the
Just
warrant.
say your name and where you live.
Vince LaSalle, 17 Summer Street, Monroe.
Okay.
My first comment, maybe Mike can answer this for me. How could warrants be just thrown out without a fee or a fine? I mean, I don't understand that. Maybe you
So
can explain
I
that.
can explain that to
You
you.
don't have to now, but maybe, I
No,
don't
no.
know if you time.
I mean,
To me, as a public, if I get a fine, or I get a ticket,
It's a good
or I get a
question.
warrant, I gotta pay. If you're gonna
So-
throw it out, you gotta pay something.
It's a good
All right,
question.
so
I
all
want the
these,
town to get it back. I want
yeah,
to get
it
away.
would be nice, and that was, we had bought, you hear me? Yeah, yeah. We had brought that up with the hopes that maybe you would, get a, ACD, which means, adjournment contemplating dismissal. The problem is that most of these warrants, these old warrants date back like years. And they haven't, these people, we have no idea where they are. They're probably not in Monroe anymore, they may not even be alive, God only knows where they are. But these warrants were never acted on by the police or anybody. So these people, they're all misdemeanors or whatever, they're not like, there's no murderers out there. But the problem is because of the criminal justice reforms that were passed up in Albany that kick in on January 1st, which requires, no bail for defendants. So really, if you bring them in on the warrant, what are you gonna say? You can't hold them, so you'd have to release them anyway, right? The other thing is then the DA's office, because these are penal law misdemeanors, has to within 15 days of that has to present discovery evidence of basically everything the prosecutor has. So if you start doing that for thousands and thousands, they wouldn't have enough people, you know, they're talking about labor intensive just to kind of mark something closed in the system. You could never, when I say discovery, that's anything that pertains to that arrest.
Mike,
Any
why should the town
document.
pick it up? Let the state pick it up. Why should you guys?
Well, no,
do it?
we're not, I mean, as far
And
as
if
this.
she wants it in her budget, and you're gonna give it to her.
Yeah, well,
I feel like
that's
the
kind of the
taxpayer knows,
discussion that
give it
we're
to the
having,
state.
whether that actually, I don't think it's as labor intensive as
Yeah,
they say it is,
yeah.
and I'm not doubting, I think, listen, this is a whole unknown quantity, no one's really dealt with it before, so it's like, they're like, oh, this is gonna be crazy, but I think,
It's a
it's
lot
not-
of money they're asking the town to
yeah,
carry.
absolutely,
That's
yeah,
my
we'd
point.
we'd
That's
rather
all.
not carry it, but really, this whole criminal justice reform that was passed up in Albany in this last session is pretty much unfunded. It's an unfunded mandate that's getting passed down to towns, villages,
Well, I think that's
cities.
unfair.
Yeah, it was a nice feel-good type thing, but it's, you know, it's falling back on us, so anyway, I hope that
One
answers
other
your
thing
question.
is, I appreciate what you're trying to do with the budget. It seems to me very simple. I'm a simple person. I'm a senior citizen on a fixed budget. If you only got a 2% cap, it seems like everybody who comes up here, you have to make a decision judgmentally. Is the recreation more important than the judge? Is this more important? Why not just cut everybody to, if you know your cap, just cut everybody a certain percentage and make it fair?
Well,
This way they don't point that Mr. Cardona's favoring this guy, or Mary's favoring this group. That's just
Let me,
public
let me
comment.
just explain something to you.
Yeah,
There are some departments that come in already with a cut. So if they've already cut and you didn't go up 2%, that gives us a little leeway with other departments if there's a need for it. So it's really got nothing to do with favoritism, it's got,
You know,
and I know you didn't insinuate
yeah,
that.
right.
I mean, it has to do with, you know, the 2%, and that's the bottom line. And I promise you, we will not be
Yeah, I
above, we
appreciate
will not
that.
be above the cap.
We should leave it up to the department heads where they need to cut. You say, you're gonna get this amount, you gotta live with it, like I have to live with my fixed income, and find a way to keep us on. I appreciate what you guys are doing, that's what I'm saying.
Listen, in most situations, that's basically what happens. You know, I go back to the department and say, listen, I gotta cut you here, but if you wanna designate which line items are getting cut, you
Oh, good.
tell me.
Yeah, well, some of these costs, like salary and benefits, are not within our purview, we can't cut. These are
Right.
either contractual,
Or union.
or, yeah, I mean, we can't do anything about those things. We
Right.
can't, you know, we can't cut healthcare premiums to people because
Right.
it's contractual and it wouldn't be right, you know what I mean? So,
I
those are
appreciate-
costs that we can't control, you know, pension costs, those are
Right.
another thing that we can't, you know, we just have to kind of roll with those, you know?
Okay, I just thought the
And the
warrant-
lawsuit, you know, is really what's hurting us,
Yeah.
and that's something we inherited, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
I
We
appreciate
just
what
have to
you're
deal
trying
with
to
it the
do.
best we can, you know?
How many years ago was that from, Tony?
Lawsuit?
Starting like 06, 07.
06, 07.
Thank you
yeah.
very much, Vincent.
No,
Thank you.
Good night, Vincent.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers?
Page one.
Do the routine.
Oh, boy.
Name?
Anonymous. Jim Rogers down.
Thank you.
The town lighting,
Page 13?
on the front page there. 73,200. How come it's not around 35 or 40?
Because I'm waiting, I spoke to actually Mr. Vessel today, and I'm waiting for a final number before I change that. I don't want to have to change it multiple times. So it's gonna be down there, but what's gonna happen is there's gonna be an offset in it with respect to what we have to pay for the conversion.
Okay. Page 21, water districts. I see there's nothing on paying back the general fund.
That's exactly what the bond is for.
Okay, now, I was a little confused on what you said. You're gonna roll everything together there. Who's
Okay,
gonna
so-
pay for that?
So you have, you're basically rolling all the bands together, okay? But into one band, but they will be broken out with separate schedules. So let's say the cost for doing that is $5,000 in lawyer's fees, and the $600,000 that Water District 12 is taking represents 10% of it. That 10% of the attorney's fees will be backed out for them. So everything will be applied to the proper fund.
So who pays for that?
The Water District 12 residents.
Okay. That's what I mean. I'm not in the water district or the sewer district.
Yeah, you're not paying for that.
Okay, but when you said, well, I'm gonna.
Oh, don't worry, I'll
Things together.
get you on some other things, but I'm not getting you on that.
Okay.
You're paying for the highway trucks, though. And the town hall.
And then one quick thing here.
Yeah.
On District 14, which is not a district,
Yes.
I see Orange County Sewer District, one assessment. You had $500, they only used $5. Why would they have a Orange County Sewer District and a water district?
I think that's on, I would have to check it, but I think that's property that,
Does not.
is, yeah, it's like town property, and so we're not exempt from the sewer charge.
And then there's vacant property
Yeah,
that is not exempt from the sewer charge.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your assistance with everything. Mayor? Come on down.
That was in unison, too. That was well done.
Pretty good.
Well, thank you, I appreciate the opportunity. Just a real quick, couple of
Appreciate you
questions.
coming, sir.
I heard it mentioned before, but I just want to clarify, District 15, we're going to, Smith Farm, we're going to put something in here on the,
Yeah, we're billing, our fee is $35 per quarterly bill, per bill.
okay. So I'm just saying, I don't see any line item.
No, we didn't generate it yet, not yet.
Okay.
You don't even see District 15 in there
I
yet.
know,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm actually asking. Okay,
Soon.
all right. Next question regarding, you had said something earlier, I just wanted to get a clear understanding.
What
The
page?
mortgage tax on the income, page 1.
mortgage tax, yes.
Excuse me, page 1,
Yeah, line-
000, 3005.
2005, yep.
So I thought you might have said that you saw a reduction in mortgage tax collected
This year.
this year? All right, so we're at 500,000 you adopted in 19, and 20 you're at 515. What did we collect in 18? Do we know if anybody?
In 18, we collected 1.3 million, I think it was, 1.355.
Yeah,
And I want to say, out of that, I think it was almost 800,000 that was attributable to KJ.
Right.
So I'm basically, just subtracting that
Just
now
doing the math.
until
Yeah.
I get the final numbers from
Yeah.
the county.
I got you, Flagship, let's see what page they're on. Anybody,
We're on the
yeah,
same page
we're
you
on
were
the
just
same
on,
page.
okay,
It's line A, and it's 2080.
right in the middle.
got it. Okay, so we had 30,000 on the income side, we've collected 630. I'm just curious where that reflects. Was it
So-
30 based on?
So the 30 was based on an anticipated revenue
Yep.
projected from the sales, okay? Their sales are probably gonna get to that, and we probably won't see that money until
After.
next year.
Okay.
But I don't, listen, hopefully, October, November, December are banner months.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of new movies coming out.
Right, November, Christmas, absolutely.
We actually just coordinated with the Veterans Association. Remember when we did 12 Strong?
Sure.
So we're gonna do that for Midway.
Oh, very cool.
And I,
November.
yeah,
Yeah, nine.
I think it's not that first week.
12th.
Week in November. What,
Yeah.
12?
12th.
12.
Yeah, breakfast.
So they're basically going to try to sell out 2 shows again, and Christian Farrell from the Veterans Association up in Goshen, he's the one that's coordinating it. Since we don't own the theater, I stayed out of it.
Sure.
Just put him in touch and made sure that the connection was made, because there was some consideration that they wanted to go to Middletown.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, page 2, under executive. Just want to understand 1220-1030, supervisor compensation of part-time.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay, you want to explain that? I can explain it, but you'll do a better job.
Okay, so actually, the part-time, what we did was, I actually have cut my hours part-time, and I was funded actually in a 1680, which was under central data processing. So, because I went part-time, and we do not have a controller anymore, the supervisor is the financial head. So we really should be under his department. In addition to myself, which was put in that line, we've also hired another part-timer that is taking up the other part of the job that I've done.
Okay.
So it's basically just been moved from an A 1680 1020 account to supervisor part-time.
Okay, and just in case I'm gonna ask that question, I just want to just go back again, Helen, please. Just give me the line again.
A 1680
Dash.
1020.
Okay, and that line was vacated.
That line is vacated. If you look at it, it's on
Page
page
5.
5, under central data processing. You'll see that this year it was 66,381,
I see, now 0.
and now it's 0.
Got it. Terrific. So basically, at that 63,7930, we have 2 part-time employees.
Correct.
Got it.
For 5% less of the cost and no bennies.
Right, and no bennies.
Love it. That's the future, no bennies. Okay. In that same page 5, and I just want to get my head around this because I'm used to percentages. So when I look at, you've got, this is as of 10/22, this report was generated, I guess?
Yep.
Yes.
So essentially, we have November, December, and then, of course, bills we paid January for December, I'm sure. So would you say you're 9 out of 12 months complete in your order? 10 through, right?
10.
Well,
Well, no, this goes to
this
10
goes
too.
through 10/2,
So
so
it's 9 months.
9 months, yeah.
Okay. So do you see, for instance, in that special items line, where we budgeted 182 and we've done 100, which is 55% year-to-date?
Which line?
I'm sorry, special items, 1910, that whole section right there, Helen, under total, I'm sorry, page 5.
Yeah, but that's got to do with the contingent account, you know. That's really where the bulk of what's not spent is.
Okay.
You're talking about
You'll find
1910,
that,
4601?
well, I'm just talking about it as a whole.
Oh,
I'm
as a
trying to,
whole.
I'm looking at things as percentages. So if I'm 9 out of 12 months completed in audit, I'm just looking at the numbers and saying, okay, are these gonna generate X amount of percentage points additional for the next 3 months? Is it gonna bring you back to your number? Because wherever you're adding to the overall line, so if you're at 182 in 2019, you're at 222. And I see you're at 55% year-to-date, even though, as Supervisor just mentioned, the bulk of that is under contingency.
Contingent. Mm.
So I'm just kind of looking at that at all the lines, so I'm just asking that as an example. Is that, nothing specific, Helen, but just as an example, I'm just saying, if you're first part of the question is, you're 9 months out of 12 completed.
Correct.
We agree there, okay, so that helps. So when I figure out what percentages you are year-to-date, outside of the dollars,
Mm.
I'm gonna look to see what is the other quarter gonna generate. And is that number gonna get there, or is it gonna be under? In which case, then I look at to see what your tentative is.
Well, I guess, right, well, it will depend because, for instance, on that contingent account,
Sure.
so it'll depend on all the other lines in the A fund
Right.
to see,
Some
to make
overlap
sure.
the balance.
Balance,
Right.
right.
So, it will depend on how much of that 85 we use between now and the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Like if you go into the legislative fund on page 1, there's a $40,000 payment to the mayor that's not paid yet, so. And we're looking.
You got that on camera? Okay. Start at 6 in the morning. Let's see. Okay.
And because even if you look, in that same category, Neil, if you, look at even the sewer assessment for 1465 Orange Turnpike, that was an A 1950 4000-14.
Sure.
We didn't budget anything, but we spent 5,800.
Sure.
So, that's gonna have to get offset.
Oh, yeah. No, understood. But when you see those are the things that'll draw your attention, and that's why, I've just seen this tonight for the first time. I appreciate all the work that you folks have put into this. And I think the first thing that caught my ear was, I guess it was last month, I think early on, you had thought that maybe we were looking at, did I hear 20% on village?
Well, listen, when I did the budget that had to be submitted to the clerk,
Yeah.
when I shouldn't say when we did the budget, it was an 18% increase
Sure.
in the village.
Yeah.
And we'll get down, I'd say at least, at the very least, below 3.
Right.
I'm gonna strive for a lot better than that, but we'll see. And like I said, listen, a lot of it depends on, where we cut, if we could generate some more revenue maybe somewhere, what the mortgage tax comes in at. Sales tax, which the numbers from sales tax are pretty much set.
Right.
We've gotten them from the county, so.
You still have money coming in though, right? You'll have this quarter or this semi, what is it?
Yeah, this quarter.
Quarter.
We've got the third quarter money, we're waiting for fourth quarter money.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all your time. Should I have anything else, I could just shoot you an email, I'm sure, or anything further.
Yeah, thank you, thanks for coming down, appreciate it.
Thanks, Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
got a
Mayor.
question, up?
I got a question.
Please, yes.
Could
Your
you also look
2021
over the-
budget, oh, I'm sorry, that's
Could you also look over the park budget again,
Yes.
based on what you heard tonight? Maybe there's something, catches your attention the second time around.
Yeah, and I will, actually, I think the budget that you folks were reviewing and what I had just from yesterday, I think has some differing numbers. So I'm going to compare the two.
Yeah, so just so you know, so what I did when I got their budget, I just plugged numbers in where I thought they could cut.
Sure.
I did a total of it, and then I reduced it by 30,500.
Yes.
And I did that to see where we were in relationship to the cap.
Gotcha.
And based on that, you see this, the exceeded amount is 198,262. So that's more we gotta cut.
No, I hear you. I did have a question that you bring up the park. So last year, you folks came in with your contribution at 302,
302,
but then you came in with another
35,000 in capital.
Capital.
monies.
So I'm just curious, why, or what was the reasoning behind that? Like, what was the principle?
Because normally the village matches the capital money, so,
Really?
I told you that.
Really?
Yeah, I told you
Well, the village maintained their contribution, but I didn't know about that.
that. Still about 14,000 less than the town, and you own the property. Listen, I'm not looking to go on the deed like they have in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
have the deed, I don't want that responsibility.
No, but I'm just curious. I was just curious why, versus just coming in with a pile at 334, like why 302 and then 30? That's all I was just.
Yeah, because essentially the 35 is basically in the fund balance,
Right.
and.
All right.
Which they had to take.
And we don't have to tax the residents on that.
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, they don't have to take it, but like, they have a big project coming up, that's why they wanted to roll it over, which is.
Right.
which is
And they
not a
talked
problem.
about that last night, so.
Yeah, so this year we'll probably give 75, so we'll be expecting the other 110 coming from you in the near future. You come up and ask questions, I'll give you answers.
3 o'clock.
You're ahead.
And then there was one other thing you just mentioned, while we're talking about it.
Did you hear what he just called me? Did you hear what
I
he just
didn't,
called me?
no, I didn't do that. Are we on camera?
What?
Are we on camera?
Yeah, we're live.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll look at that through it, I definitely go through it again.
Thank you.
Regarding the
Appreciate it.
parks, okay,
What?
regarding the parks, do they get their gas through the same, do they do
Yeah.
like through the?
Yeah, they go
Yeah.
to the school.
District?
Yeah,
Okay.
will do, yeah.
Yeah, because I just noticed like they had 40, it was, I'm not looking at it now, but it was like $4,400, and they'd only gone through like 11 or 12 or something like that, so I was just wondering, you know, it seems like they weren't, yeah, with 3 months to go, I didn't think they were gonna be spending the other, whatever it is, $3 grand on it, so,
Yeah.
just another spot.
Anybody else? All the people out in the audience, anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody on the board have anything else to add? No? Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Let's give Councilman McGinn a little credit, Councilman Cangarello.
It sounds good.
So seconded by Councilman McGinn.
Second.
Call the question?
Bingham, aye.
Cardone, aye.
Scangarello, aye.
McGinn, aye.
Okay, so moved. Thank you very much.
All missing.
Come down November 7th for the public hearing. Yeah.
Hold on.